Hi, thanks for joining us for today's product spotlight. We're going to be looking at Lytho's Request File Markup. As a creative designer, graphic designer, a project manager, a traffic manager, you may have received a request form that looks a little bit like this, where your stakeholder is having to, through the written word, describe changes that they want to see on an existing asset. They're using text fields within your request form to submit to you the changes that they need in order to recycle, maybe reuse an asset. And so they're having to maybe painstakingly describe those changes, saying, in line 3, paragraph 2, there's a word change we want to see. Maybe there's some specific part of an image that needs to be photoshopped. And instead of being able to just point right where that change needs to happen on the image, they're having to describe the context of the image so that the designer knows what changes need to be applied in order to deliver the final asset that can be used by your requester. And so we've developed this request file markup environment. It's an on-asset collaborative environment embedded into a request form so that when your requesters add attachments to your request form, they can open up the file that they've attached and they can leave very specific direction and comments about the changes they'd like to see so that the creative team really is set up to be in the best position possible to understand what your stakeholder needs so that they can deliver and get to that approved as is status as quickly as possible and meet this, your requester satisfaction. So we're going to look at that today in this presentation, the in-app experience. So you can see here, I'm going to be creating a new request and I'm recycling an old asset. So I'm going to pick a request form that is update existing assets. And that asset actually lives within our DAM. And so I can access it quickly through the request form, find it using a search bar. There it is. Select, add, and it's going to then attach itself to the request form. Once it is processed, I can use this icon to add comments. And this is what's going to open up that file in our on-asset collaborative environment. So here, we're going to see there's a couple different annotation tools we can use. These are expanding weekly, by the way, but we've got dot and that rectangle select. You can also choose what color you want your comments to appear with so that you get that good contrast and it's easy to find. We're going to start with a dot annotation. I'm going to leave a comment about this picture. This kiddo's consent form has expired, and so we need to use an image from a different patient. I can attach that image here using the attachment feature. I could also mention someone to message another collaborator, contributor who may want to weigh in on that discussion to make sure we get to the final answer quickly and easily. I'm going to use the rectangle tool here to highlight this text and say there's a little bit of reformatting we want to see here. If you could just move this to 2 lines, that would be great. It is so much easier to show the designer what I would like done to this asset than to have to describe it to them in text fields. So those are the only 2 changes we want to see on this example. So we'll hit done, pop back over into the request environment, and I can submit the final request form. From here, the designer or your traffic manager, whoever manages your requests, can pop open that attachment, get into this same collaborative environment and reply to comments, let them know this can be done, this can't be done. We have further questions. We need more clarification. They can add additional comments. And then when they're finished and everything has been decided upon and agreed upon by both parties, your stakeholder and your creative team, you accept the request. And then the creative team or whichever designer is going to take on that work has very specific, understandable, clear directions about what is expected for this work. And what I love about the adoption of request file markup is that you will actually see measurable improvements in your processes. And anytime you can validate a change to a process, it's a great win for your team. And it also reinforces that good camaraderie you have with your stakeholders and how helpful it is for your creative team to be a great partner for them by them adopting this new tool. So improvements you can expect to see through request file markup is a decreased time it takes to get from requested to accepted. So you're able to move through that request process a lot quicker by having all of your communication done in one place during the request process instead of having it spread out maybe across multiple days and different channels of communication. Instead, it's all happening in one place. Decrease your overall request duration time. We've set the creative team up to know exactly what's expected of them, and we've made clear instructions in the context of the asset where the work is going to be done. So there's a much better understanding about what needs to be accomplished, and the designer can dive into that work straight away and deliver that final deliverable in the least amount of time possible. Part of that also is you're going to decrease the number of proof versions you're going to need to go through because the expectation has been set at the starting point of what your deliverable needs to achieve in order for your stakeholder to be satisfied. And then ultimately, we're eliminating a lot of noise around the creative request process, follow-up emails, maybe even kickoff meetings that now you don't have to have because you're having that collaboration and you're refining the details of the request in that on-asset collaborative environment using the request file markup tool. So I hope this has been helpful in understanding what this tool can do and how this tool can help your teams ultimately deliver better content outcomes by streamlining that request process and having better collaboration and communication with your stakeholders. If you have any questions about how you can adopt this tool and bring it in for your team to use, reach out to your CSM. We'd love to talk to you about it. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining us.